good to know that we actually have Ayodele Akinwumi, Head of Research at FSDH Group, joining us this morning to give us insight into all of the historical background and, of course, what the expectations from the meeting of today will look like. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Right. So let's go down the lane and check the fact that we've seen the CBN leaving the MPR unchanged for, I think, 30 consecutive time up until March, when they then had to review and then reduce the MPR by some 50 basis points. But as of the last meeting, there was basically no change eventually.
Yeah, thank you very much. We released a note last week on FSDH research. We think that this meeting, possible options for number one, either to retain or to cut rates, but I think they are more likely going to cut rates just to put effect into a policy that the bank has laid down, their vision for the next 5 years. And of course, it's in line with the economic realities on ground at the moment. We have further growth and stimulate the growth to ensure that they can expand at a rate that will bring about inclusive growth in the economy. But two, they need to see inflation trending down. Outlook for the rest of the year until October shows that it continue to go down, except there is an adjustment to PMS price or the electricity tariff, which the body language we are getting from the fiscal authority doesn't seem that one. Then lastly is the stability that we've seen in foreign exchange market and on account of the level that the reserve is at the moment. So I think based of all these, the report by 50 to 100 points.
That seems to be the consensus among analysts like you. What are you hinging these rate cuts on your forecast?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, the central bank wants to ensure that the economy grows, even though we have mentioned that there are a lot of complementary policies, fiscal policies, that needs to be in place for the economy to grow. Monetary policies adjustments, they are not only enough to stimulate the economy from the level it is, but that's the tool that they have to ensure that they stimulate growth.
The key drivers that we have for the likelihood of the CBN MPC retaining rates or reducing it by 50 basis points to 100 basis points, since it looks like you folks, analysts, researchers at large, basically kind of have a consensus at this time.
So we talked about the possible outlook of inflation, which is one of the primary objectives of the central bank. In the next few months, I think outlook shares is going to go down if there is no adjustment to PMS price and there is tariff. Therefore, it's consistent with the fact that the bank likely reduce rates. Number two is the fact that we've seen a lot of stability in the foreign exchange market on account of the level that we have external reserve at the moment. So number three is the fact that the sluggish growth in GDP in the country.
Right.
We were speaking earlier, the global 4% is far lower than what inflation growth is, and so it's not enough to create jobs. So they want to ensure that we stimulate within the policy that they have to create jobs in agriculture, in manufacturing, and real estate. And they feel that the way to go about that is to make them to have access to credits at low rates. And lastly is even the federal government on its own, the fact that we have really high interest expenses. So the ratio of interest expense to the revenue of the government is quite high. And I mean, generally this year we've got around the treasury bill yield on 1 year money is about 17%. It's moved down to about 12% thereabouts now, and that has saved a lot of money for the federal government. You know, that's not a sustainable model, but then that's what we are doing at the moment to ensure that credit flow to the real set of the economy at moderate rate to drive growth.
So, at the time that the CBN MPC actually reviewed and, of course, reduced the MPR rate by 50 basis points in March, all other variables were left unchanged. At this point, some folks have argued that the likelihood of a reduction in CRR is not possible, but then that of asymmetric corridor has to be changed. Do you agree with that argument?
Okay, so we agree with that. I mean, in the report we released last week on Friday, we actually alluded to that in the report. It's possible that even remove the standing deposit facility rates, okay, not be surprised, and market should not be surprised if they come up with saying no interest will be paid on any balance that the federal bank again.
So you talked about credit creation as part of the objectives of the CBN, which is why we are likely to see this rate cut. But how much can they really achieve eventually? Because over time, it looks like the MPR rate cut and all of that hasn't really been a major signal for economic growth in terms of how it affects the real sector and the rest.
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of complementary fiscal policies that need to be in place to make monetary policy very effective in management of an economy. So take, for instance, what we have in Nigeria at the moment, where there are a lot of issues in the farmland. There is no amount of money that you can give to farmers that will make them to increase production and productivity if there are security challenges, if there are people who don't allow them to go to the farmland to produce. We also need some other facilities to be available to even increase the farm yield. Right? So money is not everything. Even transporting the agricultural produce from the farm to the market, a lot of them, get spoiled along the way because of poor roads, but bad state of road and transport network in the country. We also have poor storage facilities. So all these have to come together to ensure that we have worked together with the monetary policy channeling credit to that area. That's one of the reasons why banks are a bit hesitant to lend money to those priority sector of the economy. Not because they don't want to lend money, but they feel that if we do lend money to this area, the structures on ground, there are a lot of structural rigidities that may not even make the money to come back out. It can even lead to incidents of non-performing loans. So they are a bit hesitant for them to do that. So all those work together, but Central Bank does not have control over certain things. They will believe the things that I have control over monetary policy and to ensure that we maintain price stability, which is the core objective of Central Bank, then they will want to, put it in place. And so when the fiscal policies are complementing, then we'll now be able to achieve the desired result.
So let's look at the implications of all of these decisions on the equities market or the securities market generally. If we take, for example, the fixed income markets, we realized that there was a bit of reaction to the rate cut in March to the tune of, I think, some 215 basis points decline to some 12% or thereabouts. But in terms of equities, we didn't really see any kind of reaction. Why did we see that kind of sentiment? And what is likely to change this time if the rate cuts, eventually happens again?
Okay, on a normal situation, you have an inverse relationship between the interest rates and the performance of the equities market in two ways. Number one, so when companies are able to borrow money at cheaper rates, it reduces their cost of doing business, which enhances their profitability and cash flows to equity holders, and therefore that increases the equity price and the possibility of declining higher money. So that does that. Even in terms of appraising your project, it means that your internal rate of return may be lower because of your cost of funds, your cost of equity will be reduced. And when your cost of equity is reduced, then you have equities market going to go up, and therefore prices may go up. But then beyond that, there are a whole lot of issues that affect the equities market. One of such is confidence. Confidence in the macroeconomic direction in the country, confidence in pronouncements, which, speaking to a number of investors at the moment, is a bit low, right? And for obvious reasons, So those are, so even although the Central Bank may still go ahead to reduce rates, it may not necessarily translate to the growth in equities market. I mean, yield now, in the secondary market, treasury bills about 12.04% yesterday. That is enough stimulus for people to go into the equities market. Inflation at about 11.2, so little, spread margin over that. But we are investors. Remember that a stock can appreciate by 10%. So in 2 days, you can have far higher return risk-adjusted return on that. But people are not doing that. Dangote Cement now is about 1 hour 17 naira thereabout. MTN is going to 126 naira, and a whole lot of other companies. I mean, Zenith Bank. These are solid companies that have possibility of achieving good returns of 30%, 25% from the current level. But people are a bit hesitant because we don't. Investors are saying, what is the direction? What is going to drive the economy? What are the pronouncements? I mean, you see what happened in Abuja yesterday. I'm sorry, one of your staff members was involved. So those are issues that needs to be dealt with, that need to be to speak to the economy, that will make investors to have confidence that because in a very harsh environment, even the corporate will not be able to carry out that business very well. And so the outlook of the company may not be so bright. And when the outlook is not bright because of what is happening in the general economy, security vision here and there, then there will be a downgrade in the share price. And that's what I think is happening now. But what we hope is that the relevant authorities will come up on time to complement the Central Bank's policy, and then to ensure that we achieve the desired objective. And that's when the gain will filter into the equities market.
Beyond the monetary side of policy decisions and all of that, the CBN is also doing a whole lot of things that the fiscal authorities should have done. Credit creation is one, for example. I mean, doling out cash, or I should use the word, making facilities available to the agri sector, the textile folks and manufacturers get FX at the right time. The banks are now being deterred from T-bills and all of that. Now, should we not see the equities market also reacting possibly to all of this kind of information and, of course, policy from the monetary authorities as well?
Okay, so I just want to correct the general view on the street that the central bank is moving beyond what it should be doing. Okay.
But that's what analysts like you have also. Well, maybe not yours, but other analysts are
okay, so the same thing. They may be doing something which they call developmental role, but still within achieving their core primary objective of price stability. And I want to draw an analogy. So a typical company in Nigeria goes to the market to import, goes out of the country, access foreign exchange from the foreign exchange market, increasing the demand for it to bring in imported materials. So things that could be sourced for in Nigeria, when you are doing that, you are increasing the demand for foreign exchange, which may likely ensure, economies, when the increasing demand means that the price of that commodity will go up. And in this case, depreciation in value of currency. All right. So if the bank feels that, if I help to attack the root cause of this, where I intensify agri business, I intensify manufacturing business, I bring about a better integration between the agri sector and the manufacturing sector in terms of providing raw materials that the manufacturing sector needs and lowering the demand for foreign exchange rates, except for things that we cannot produce, then it will help to show up the value of the external reserve, and it will also help to ensure price stability in exchange rate, which is the core of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So that is one of the reasons why the Central Bank is doing all these things. Job creation.
It isn't taking over the roles of the fiscal authorities.
Well, we obviously say fiscal authorities needs to come up quickly and do what they need to do. But Central Bank has to say, this is what I need to do to ensure that I do. Whoever, all of them are agents of government, whoever does that, but then we should commend Central Bank for what they are doing to the very large extent. And then the Central Bank did not has not issued, as far as I'm concerned, issued any circular to say banks must not invest in treasury bills. But then when the rates are low, people will think, should we now look for other sources of assets?
Mr. Akinwumi, I need to interject. I apologize though, but we really need to go. It's TV time. We're done with this segment. Well, thank you very much for your attention here. We appreciate your insight.